November 28th Board of Selectmen's meeting. It's actually our final meeting for 2023. And this meeting is being conducted remotely in accordance with guidance issued by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in 2023. Participants will wanting to participate in the meeting may do so utilizing the Zoom video conferencing technology. There's a link on the agenda. There's also a telephone number for those that just want to connect via telephone. And in addition, if citizens want to watch the movie but not participate, it is being streamed live on Facebook. So with that, I will commence the meeting with citizens' comments. There being none, I will go to item 1.1, and that is a discussion and a vote regarding filling the vacancy of Selectman Robert Springett. As many of you may know, Selectman Springett passed away earlier this month. He was in the midst of his final term, and as such, we're looking to understand and potentially vote on the process for filling his term. So Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I understand Town Clerk Felicia Hoffman is also joining us this evening.
Yep, absolutely. So as we talked about at a little at your last meeting, the board has two options. One option is to continue as just two members until the next election, which, as you said, happens to coincide with the end of Bob's term anyway. The other option is to call for a special election to fill Bob's vacant spot, so that you would have a person, to assist you with some of the work between now and the annual election. In your packet, or I guess under separate cover was a sample special town election warrant, should you wish to pursue this, and some text, which kind of gave an overview of what we were hoping to do is if you choose to do a special election, to make life a little easier for our town clerk and election workers, we thought it made sense to try to have the election coincide with the presidential primary, which is scheduled for Tuesday, March 5th. Our timeline, if you were to vote tonight, would allow that to happen. We'd be cutting it pretty close, but we can make that happen thanks to the work of Felicia. With that, however, just to note, the recommendation would be to do the election via nomination papers as opposed to holding caucus. So we do hold a caucus as part of our annual election process. Through the special election process, you have an option. The most recent, actually when Mr. Jeffries was elected in 2016, was done through nomination papers. So our recommendation, given the tight timeline, would be to do that again this go round, if you're willing to do that. If you do vote tonight to move forward with this, just for the public's benefit, nomination papers would be available from the town clerk starting tomorrow and would have to be submitted to the town clerk by Friday, January 12th.
And Felicia, do you have anything to add about the process and the timing?
Hi. No, it's tight timing, but it's absolutely doable. And I think if you decide that you want to vote, this is the soonest we can do it. So it would be the most help to you to get somebody sooner rather than later.
Right. And my preference would be to hold this special election. Both John and I actually were voted in special elections. For me, there was a caucus. For John, there was nomination papers. I think what I really like about this is not having to actually have a special election, but dovetailing off of an election that's already going to happen on March 5th. I would just want to make absolutely certain that we do publicize that nomination papers are available at the town clerk's office and that they need to be submitted to the town clerk by January 12th. And Felicia, remind me, for nomination papers, how many signatures are required?
A minimum of 35, but we always suggest that you get more in case somebody doesn't remember where they live or fill out the paper properly.
Okay.
And we will be publicizing this. This is already in the works. Once you decide which way you're going to go, we will make sure it's out there quickly.
Okay, thank you. John, do you have any comments or preferences?
I agree with all of the above. Robin, just as you mentioned, we both were elected our first time, which was a long time ago for both of us.
Right.
Here, this way, it is. I do think there's enough time. I do think it's important, and also just one comment for the why. Why have a third person? There's a lot to do between March and May for the town, our town meeting, our annual town meeting. We have a very full slate. We are going to have lots of warrant articles. The warrant closes in 2 weeks, so we'll have a lot more clarity in terms of what's happening in town meeting for our May town meeting. So I think it's, for all the reasons mentioned, absolutely the right thing to do. And if you would like, Rob and I would be happy to read the motion. I move to call a special election to be held on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024, for the purpose of electing a member of the Board of Selectmen. I move to approve and execute the March 5th, 2024 special election warrant.
I will second that. And then all in favor, I, Robin Hunter.
I, John Jeffries.
So Mike, Felicia, thank you very much for pulling this together. I'm glad the way it all came together. Anything we can do to help, please let us know.
Thank you.
So I think agenda item 1.2 fits in nicely with why it's necessary to have another selectman on board. With the help of the town administrator, John and I have been trying to make sure that that all gaps are covered. Bob Springett was really doing a lot of important things, and 3 of the committees in which he served as liaison need to be changed to either Bob or myself. The first one is the liaison to the warrant committee. It has always been a tradition where somebody from the Board of Selectmen is a liaison with the warrant committee to ensure that all the warrant items are properly addressed for town meeting, to make sure that there are no issues that the warrant committee sees that the Board of Selectmen isn't made aware of. So that is really an important function that is performed by both warrant and the Board of Selectmen. The other one is the community center. Bob, this has been, or was his baby from the first day. He really shepherded this process along. We're going to really miss his guidance, and hopefully one of us can bring it to closure. But we will not take all the glory because it really does belong with Bob. And then the last one is the liaison with the Board of Selectmen's size study committee. This group was looking at whether or not it made sense for the town to move from 3 to 5 Board of Selectmen's, and they were looking at what other towns were doing, and they were going to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen with respect to the analysis that they have been doing. So, John, my understanding is that I think we really need to fill the Warren Committee and the Community Center. My understanding is the Selectmen membership size study is done with all of their work, and that really what needs to happen now is for the chair of that committee to pull together their findings, and then for the committee to make a presentation to the Board of Selectmen. So I'm not sure we really need a liaison at this point, but what I can volunteer to do is to contact the chair of that committee and make sure that my understanding is correct. I don't know if you have a different understanding, John.
No, my understanding is similar, Robin. I've had conversations with Kate, who chairs the committee, Kate Canny, and where the committee is as of now from her last report, which was a couple of weeks ago, that the committee has done all of the initial due diligence. They've met with a number of people, a number of towns, a number of members of committee members who have been on previous study committees. You'll recall that through the Collins Center, we were made aware of cities, towns that had gone through this process and had thoroughly vetted the process. So they've looked at that, and they've looked at lots of other surrounding towns for Dover. So I agree with you. I think that part is under control, and that the stage it's at is at the reporting back. I through Bob's. I went back and read also the notes from our previous Board of Selectmen meetings where Bob had made the report, and that was pretty consistent with Bob's reports from November and October. So just to sort of double check that, and to sort of give you a sense, Robin, of how I feel on this. I agree both with the warrant, both with the building and community center. So I just suggest that we split them, and what I would be happy to do.
Oh, you don't want both?
I know the season of giving, Robin.
Right, the season of giving.
You're being a giver, and it's the season of giving, and that's just so kind of you to offer that. I just I want to be a team player, and I would suggest is I would be happy to take the building / community center if you would like the warrant. So
okay, all right.
How does that sound?
That sounds fair, especially given that you still have hail, which is a really active thing going on. So then I will move to appoint. Can I appoint myself? This is very awkward.
I think you can appoint both yourself and me.
Okay.
And we can.
So I move to appoint Robin Hunter as the liaison to the Warrant Committee, and I move to appoint John Jeffries as the liaison to the Community Center Building Committee. And with respect to the Board of Selectmen Study Committee, I will reach out to Kate Canny and make sure that our understanding is correct and set up a date for them to make a presentation to the board. So for the two appointments, do I have a second?
I will second both of that. Both of them.
Okay. So all in favor? I, Robin Hunter.
I, John Jeffries.
Perfect. I keep wanting to wait for somebody else.
Exactly. It's
very eerie here.
It is.
So now item 1.3 on the agenda, and this is very exciting. It's to approve and sign the employment contract between the town of Dover and Joe Vinci to be our new police chief. And I believe this may be a record how quickly this contract got done in the town of Dover. Maybe not in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but in the town of Dover, and over the holiday season. So a lot of kudos goes to you and Mike and Joe and HR council. So thank you, but I'm going to turn it over to you, John.
So thank you, Robin. That is very true. And it goes to both Joe, his family, and I can give you a little bit of color without getting, into too many of the weeds, but in the process from our last meeting with the two applicants to the vote, to the following week, to the Christmas. So we have been through a lot. There's been a lot of time there. We had a massive storm which affected power and affected flooding, that affected the town of Dover. That obviously, Joe being a lieutenant in Westwood, had a detrimental impact in Westwood.
He was a little busy.
He was a little busy. As was Michael, as was Chris, all of the people within our townhouse with Joe. Joe's dad was hospitalized. He is doing fine, I'm happy to report, but it was really a bit shocking between Thanksgiving and Christmas for his family. His son had surgery. Joe Vincey's son had surgery last week, something that just needed to be literally an orthopedic, something that needed to be repaired. But, when it's your son and he's a high school senior, he had so many things going on. So, to Michael and to Joe and to everybody, Kevin Feely, who our town council, who helped with this, thank you. Thank you for many phone calls while traveling, many phone calls in cars, phone calls from waiting rooms. We really covered a lot. And so we got to the point where there were 5 topics that from the contract that had gone back and forth. I believe, Michael, that we have all 5 points agreed upon. And correct me if I'm misspeaking, but essentially we offered now Lieutenant Vincey, and hopefully if he agrees with the contract, as we believe he will, it will be Chief Vincey, a contract that Michael and I and Kevin feel very, very good about. Michael, I know you have the final version. Robin, do we have to make public the terms of the contracts? Can we post it? I don't recall the specifics that we did for Michael Blanchard's contract. I know some of it is obviously done in private and some of it is done in public. So, Michael, can you remind us what part of this is required to be public and what part we keep just as a process of the conversation negotiation?
Sure. So the document itself, once voted and signed, is a public document. So if it can be made available, in the information is just kind of broadly though, for the public's benefit. The contract template was used the same as Chief McGowan. So it's the same kind of format. It's a 3-year contract. The salary range, was in line with what was advertised. And if everything goes well, the new chief will be starting the end of January, which I know I'm excited about, you're excited about. I think most excited, though, is Acting Chief Todd Wilcox. And I would just like to say, as we're doing that, I just want to reiterate how appreciative we are of Todd, Chief Wilcox, in the work that he did. It was a lot. He was doing 2 jobs at a difficult time, and we just really appreciate his efforts as well.
Yeah, thank you. Michael, thank you for mentioning that. I tried to mention that. I know Robin and I both alluded to what a great job Todd has done in the whole department, with Todd being the acting chief. Somebody's got to do his duties. Somebody's got to step in, be the night supervisor, the day supervisor. There's a constant rotation throughout the department because of just the way we had been down. As many people know, we took great steps to hire a dispatcher who's been doing a fantastic job so far. And it seems the department has done a fabulous job over the past 9 months between chief stepping aside and our new chief beginning. So thank you very much to all the members of the department. So with that, what I would like to do, Robin, is to read the motion. Unless
That would
there's
be excellent.
further discussion, I move to approve the employment contract between the town of Dover and Joseph Vincey, commencing January 26th. Mike, is that correct?
29th.
Good, thank you. January 29th. 2024.
I will second that.
And
All in favor? I, Robin Hunter.
John Jeffries.
Excellent. I am very excited to get, can we call him Chief? Chief Incy on board.
I've been calling him Chief for the past 2 weeks. And every time I send him a text or I talk to him on the phone, I asked him, how does that sound? And he says, it sounds great. It's just taking a little time to get used to it.
And maybe what we could do is the meeting following his start date, if we could just perhaps have him come to the meeting and introduce himself to the residents.
Absolutely. Felicia and I were talking today, and we'll work with the board of trying to put together a swearing in ceremony, and we'll talk some details about that.
Okay. All right. That sounds really nice.
But Michael, I told him the last time I had a conversation with him that Robin is going to pin the Chief's badge on him. Just
God, like... I for his safety.
But we'll let him pick then. Who gets to do that?
It'll be like F Troop. Well, way too young. You're way too young to remember that, but
all right. So the next item on the agenda, 1.4, is going to be led by the town administrator, Mike Blanchard, and it's regarding a discussion and a vote for the application of ARPA funds. I believe the recommendation is to utilize those for the Department of Public Works salt shed replacement design and permitting, and the Department of Public Works stormwater construction project. So I turn it over to you, Mike.
For the board's benefit and the public, the ARPA funds that we received, that's the American Rescue Plan Act. The board put together a policy some years ago that those funds could be utilized for various projects, but would first have to be approved here by the selectmen. The first piece is the DPW salt shed replacement design and permitting. You actually already approved that contract. That was approved back at the end of June. At that time, the hope was the funding could be encumbered from last fiscal year into this, but due to some timing and other issues, that wasn't feasible. So we're asking that we could use the ARPA funds for that and submit an application for that. The total for that you voted and approved back in June was $86,500. The second piece is new. We do not have a contract for this yet because we're still going through the design phase, which had already been funded. But that's for the construction of the stormwater project at DPW. As you know, we had some flooding incidents. Thank you for the patience and fortitude of DPW and Parks and Recreation, who are currently in trailers over there. I'm happy to report that the insurance company and construction has begun, which is great, but it's going to take a little time. But as part of that, when we rebuild the building, we don't want it to flood again. And it was determined that the stormwater system over there is not sufficient. There were some issues with it, and so this would be a construction to revitalize that system that's there. The good news is that this is currently on the FY25 capital improvement plan. So our hope is by utilizing ARPA funds, if this application is approved, we can pull that off capital, which would allow funding for other important things that we're looking to do. So the total for that construction project is $725,175. For the board's benefit, I was able to just quickly pull up a spreadsheet that shows the money we're allocated. So we have kind of three pots. One is a local pot. It was direct to us. That total pot, what's left in that is $567,000. And then we have a smaller pot with the county, which is $55,000, which it can be used for any projects. And between those two accounts, at 55 we probably drain that, and then some of the direct Dover money would cover that $86,500 design and permitting. The larger ask would actually be under a separate item that the county holds, which is for infrastructure. Really, that was limited to traditionally like water and sewage projects, which, as you know, we have no sewage, public sewage, and very limited water distribution system. So we were very worried that that money would have to just kind of go back, that we wouldn't be able to utilize it. But thankful that there were some changes to the way ARPA money can be used, and our stormwater project does qualify. So the money in that account is $752,000. And again, this is coming in just over 725. So it will fit within there, which will be great. And again, a real relief of some burden to our capital budget.
And then, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, if you don't use these funds, you have to return them?
That's correct. Yep. So they have to be encumbered by the end of, I'm going to probably mess it up. I believe it's encumbered by the end of next calendar year.
Yeah, that's by the end of 2024, right?
Yeah, and so if you don't do that, then the money does get returned.
Right.
Which, again, it's a lot of money, and it would be great to utilize that. And this, I think, would be a great way to do that.
I'm looking at this.
And I think this is extremely helpful, as we've begun to look at the capital needs for fiscal year 2025. We have an initial ask of $3.5 million, of which almost $2 million is for these infrastructure type projects. So this will go a very, very long way in defraying some of the taxpayer costs for those projects. And again, you alluded to the stormwater and the flooding at the DPW garage. There's also, we're required to replace some culverts. So there's a lot of infrastructure projects that, due to changes in regulations, we're required to adhere to and replace or upgrade.
Right.
John, I'm sorry, I cut you off. So.
No, nothing, Robin, nothing. I was just commenting to Michael on the construction estimates that he gave us from the Weston and Sampson, so people can go to, as you said, if they're looking at this on YouTube, and go to our website to see the construction estimates, the sources. All the sources of the construction estimate are very recent. They're all 2023 sources. They're all local, Raynham, Andover, various towns that have done these types of constructions projects. So we're trying to be sensitive and trying to be as accurate as we possibly can, given the constraints that we're working under. We are very sensitive to budget constraints and overruns, and we want everybody watching tonight, listening, to know that this is something we're taking into consideration. I'm sure Kevin McCabe and Bobby Tosi have done a thorough job in their planning and what they can do and what the town can do in terms of their construction. All you have to do is drive through the town center to see the our DPW people who have been repairing culverts and repairing water facilities that were damaged just a couple of months ago. So right on Springdale, Spring Lane, and again on Haven Street. So we are very mindful of these projects. So Robin, with that, if there's no other discussion, I would like to move to approve the Town of Dover's application for the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds, to cover the costs related to the Department of Public Works salt shed replacement project and storm water improvements projects.
And I'll second that. All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Aye, John Jeffries.
Okay. And so now we will move on to item 1.5 of the agenda, and that is a vote to declare property as surplus property. So Mike, again, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure. So the board may be familiar with this from the past. under Massachusetts law, before we can dispose of items, we need to document them as surplus, and the board would vote to do that. So you'll see in your packet a letter from our fire chief and from our superintendent of buildings, listing some items which are no longer in service or incompatible with current equipment in the case of the fire department, and items that are damaged and no longer need to be used here at the townhouse. And we're requesting that you vote to declare those surplus. The fire department will attempt to bring in some money for the cylinders that they're disposing of. It's expected they have a value of $10 to $40 each, and there's 50 cylinders. The items here at the townhouse, unfortunately, have a very low value and probably be more expensive to try to sell them and not even know if there's a market for them. So most likely those will just get disposed of. But we would ask if the board's in agreement to deem that those items as listed in the memos are surplus items and can be disposed of.
Michael, I can tell you from painful experience, if it is furniture and if it's office furniture, if it's a table, a chair, a filing cabinet, and I'm sure David Haviland will understand this, can appreciate this as well. There is zero value for furniture of any kind. You have to pay people to take it away.
Right.
You can't even give it away.
Right. And it appears that there isn't a big market for a baby grand piano that also needs $5,000 worth of repairs.
Where did it come from?
I don't know the history of that. I don't know if it was just part of it's at the stage here. I don't know if it's just part of that. I'm actually not sure.
I'll have to ask Keith Greenfield. He knows about all things musical from the 30 years of open field production. So I move to deem the items specified by Chief Lutazzi and Carl Warnick as surplus items.
I will second that. All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Aye, John Jeffries.
Okay, so now we are on item 1.7, and that is the Board of Selectmen updates. I feel as though we just had a meeting, or maybe it's just because of the holidays that we haven't had many other meetings. But I'll give you a quick update on the Housing Task Force. So we met before the Christmas break. We agreed on a couple of action items. The one item was to take all the information that we already have on the website regarding the different kinds of multifamily developments in town and put it all in one section, make it easier for the public to access. We have a lot of information on the website already. It's just buried. And actually in the newsletter for January, there will be a link for citizens to get to that, to all that information on the website. So they'll be able to keep up to date on the current projects, which is the Pulte project, as well as Red Robin 2 or the second Tisdale project, and anything else to do with multifamily development. The task force is also working on a comprehensive checklist, which is almost ready to be published. We also had conversations with Judy Barrett, who is the godmother, I think, of all things housing in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And she is interested in helping us, as we embark upon phase 2 of the Housing Task Force, which is to understand Dover zoning, our multifamily development, what parcels of land, what might be some of the options we have with respect to development of that land, so that we can then provide citizens with an overview of what some of the options might be. The premise for this Housing Task Force is to no longer have to react, but rather be able to be proactive. So to have some tools in our toolkit. So that's the only update I have, other than, working with the town administrator and with Mr. Jeffries as well, to make sure that nothing's falling between the cracks, that we're picking up all the pieces that need to be picked up. So I don't know who, John, I believe you're working on the town finance investment.
Yes.
So,
So David is on the line this as well with us on the call with us tonight. Kate and I are working. We will be meeting after the first of the year. We've talked about this a couple of different times. Robin, what we have done is really narrow the focus to the items that have the most immediate, most current impact on our bonding and our financial resources. We are specifically working with both. I'll be working with Dave and Kate together to get a very narrow, very detailed, very deep explanation of where we are, where we're going, how inflation and how the bonding rates have impacted us positively and negatively, and we'll be working with our internal team to make sure that everybody is on the same page from a compliance standpoint, to make sure everybody is on the same page for expectations. I think we had, everybody knows we had a lot of turnover. We've had people in the departments that needed to get up to speed, and we will make sure that, as Robin, as you just said, nothing is falling through the cracks. So that will be job one of that task force. And then I'll also just add that with the same thing is true for open space as it pertains to Hale. Our open space committee meets on Tuesday of next week. Encourage anybody who has an interest in understanding more about the timeline that the town will be taking between January 2nd and our May town election to, our May town meeting, to really understand how fast we will be moving with Hale and with the option that is in front of us that we really do feel is a once in a lifetime opportunity to take advantage of. So please encourage everybody to follow along with open space, with the trustees of the reservation, and with the Hale committee. That there'll be a lot happening in the next few months.
I don't know if you took a look at the agendas, John, but I think other than coordinating just an introduction for our new police chief, I don't have anything to add to the upcoming agendas. I was very happy to notice that we can take some of the items off the agenda because we were overachievers.
Yes. I totally agree. I still think that, Robin, that I still have that image of you pinning the Chiefs pin onto Joe. And
right. Well, you keep thinking that, John. And all I can say is I'm out of practice being chair, and it's a good thing that the chair can arbitrarily move things around, because it seems as though I skipped over item 1.6. So I apologize for that. So I will go back from
back to Chris
1.7 to 1.6 and turn it over to you, Mike, just to
Sure.
give us an update on the 2024 annual town meeting warrant.
Absolutely. So no worries. We had your back. I was just going to roll it into my general update. So if it's okay, I'll just do that.
Yeah. Okay.
So as Robin already mentioned, the warrant will close, or maybe John mentioned, on January 12th. So this is just kind of a standing agenda item, but we'll get more in depth, once the warrant closes. But we're working on a few things. So one is a couple new revolving funds will be on the warrant. One for the community center as part of public rentals and things of that. And then we're also looking to work with DPW and the recycling committee for additional revolving fund for their efforts. as Robin mentioned, the work of the housing task force, and we'll be looking to perhaps have a placeholder warrant article for some funding for additional proactive work and study for our housing needs. Intend to work with Conservation Commission on some parcels of land that were taken by tax title with the intention of being turned over to the care, custody, control of the Conservation Commission. They're currently under the Selectmen, so we'll work through that process. Working with assessors on a potential warrant article to allow them to enter a longer contract with some of their data providers under law. The default is 3 years, but with town meeting's approval, you can enter a 5-year contract. So there's some benefits to potentially considering that. And then planning is working through a number of articles that they may move forward. And DPW as well, working with a number of boards and committees on a stormwater bylaw. So again, those are just kind of a preview, but those will continue to roll in once the warrant closes. We'll have some more certainty on those. To just into the regular update to Robin's point, even though it wasn't last week, it feels like we just met. And again, with the holidays, obviously some things have slowed down, but first and foremost, John already touched on this, but I just want to thank very much DPW, our police and fire departments for the work they did with that storm. And thank the workers, the electric company workers who were out on the lines. I know that there was a lot of frustration, and rightfully so, but some pretty dangerous conditions which delayed some of the power restoration efforts. But really appreciate DPW and police. They were actually tracking down Eversource trucks, riding around trying to find them to help direct them where to go, so they could work together to clear trees that are on lines and open up roads. It was really just a very impressive effort, and everybody really worked well together, which was really nice to see. I just had some good news for the community. We got word that we received additional Chapter 90 money, which is used for our roadways under the Fair Share Amendment. So Dover will be receiving an additional $169,000. That's on top of the $280,000 that we already received for FY24. So that'll be additional money that can go into the maintenance of our roads, which I know we pride ourselves on. So it's nice to have some additional funding to do that. Work continues on the operating capital budget. That's ongoing. Just met last week with the chair of the chairs of both capital and warrant committee, just so that we continue to move that forward. And it's a really great working relationship, which is nice. We've already voted the police chief contract, but again, that's been a lot of work, and thanks to John, Kevin, and Joe for that. John mentioned Hale, so continuing work behind the scenes on that, and hopefully, as John mentioned, we'll have more information to share with the public. I wanted to thank Walter Avalone, our building inspector. He's been working on a kind of an informational packet and guidance for the accessory dwelling units. We get a lot of inquiries about that, and so he's created a nice kind of fact sheet and a flow chart to help people navigate that process and where they need to go as they look to add those sorts of units. And then lastly, I'll be meeting with the interim superintendent of Minuteman Regional after the new year, Kevin Mahoney, I hope I got that right, just for an introduction and also to go over the budget as that impacts our operating budget, what their request is. So, and be happy to report back to the board and warrant committee once I get some more information on that.
So you have been busy in the less than 2 weeks since now.
Michael, I just one very quick aside with regards to Minuteman. I don't know if anybody on the call this evening has been following up on the North Shore and Newburyport in the North Shore area. They're building a new vocational school, and we have gone through this with Minuteman. We went through Minuteman appropriations for the past couple of years, and Ford Spalding, who's been a very big part of Minuteman and Minuteman's board and our liaison to Minuteman, has kept us over the past many years up to date with the impact that Minuteman has made in these various communities that surrounding us that we support. The cost for vocational education has skyrocketed. and around the Commonwealth, vocational schools that are being built are budgeted to be close to $600 million. If you can imagine building a regional school for 500 million, $500 million. So we have Minuteman. Minuteman's been a great asset for Dover, and I just really thought it was appropriate to just mention the work that Ford does and the work that other people have done with regards to that, Michael. So just thanks for that quick.
And the demand for that kind
And
of education,
absolutely.
Minuteman, they scaled back because of the costs, and there's a waiting list now for students to get into that school.
Yeah.
So again, I think there's a huge demand for that kind of education.
It really, really is. So, Michael, thank you. Is there anything, Michael, that we need to move on, or anything regards to that? Anything requiring a motion for these items?
No, not for my update. You just hit after. If I'm all set, if there's no other questions, there is one consent agenda item
Right.
for
So
receipt of a grant.
I got that covered, but thanks for reminding me. So the last item on our agenda is a consent agenda. And as you all know, I can't remember when this came into being, and actually, I forgot that it was just a Dover practice until Mike asked me about it. But it's the practice that the Board of Selectmen accept grants. And so this on the consent agenda today will be to approve the acceptance of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts grant totaling $50,635.68 for the Police Department 911 Dispatch Center and officer training.
Seconded.
So all I need to do, so all in favor, I, Robin Hunter.
I, John Jeffries.
Okay. And then the last item on the agenda is the adjournment, and we're a little early this evening, so no need for songs. We can just adjourn early. I'd like to wish all of our citizens a very happy new year. I'd like to thank the staff for everything you've done in calendar year 2023, and I look forward to all the exciting things we're going to be doing in 2024. I feel the energy when I go into the townhouse, so I am very, very excited for what I know we're going to be doing. And John, I'll let you say a few words and then I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Just going to echo what you said, Robin. Thank you to everybody. It's been this year, has been a year of milestones, of deep sadness. We've had a great year in so many ways. We've welcomed new people in Michael and Chris. We've said goodbye. We've had
Robin
and Robin,
the
exactly.
list goes on and on.
The list goes on and on of people who we've brought in and people we've said goodbye to. So it's always bittersweet. We've said that before. We do want you all to know that sincerely we thank you. We appreciate you. There's so many people who are going to watch this and be a part of it, who we don't recognize regularly, who are always a part of it. It's just a tribute to the town and to how well run the town is, that all the work that all of you do, and we appreciate it. And it shows in really how well the town is run, how well the town is received, and everything that you do matters. So we greatly appreciate it. And thank you all. Have a very happy New Year. Celebrate. And just don't celebrate too much.
Yeah, be safe. So with that, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All in favor? I, Robin Hunter.
I, John Jeffries.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Felicia. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you
Happy
all.
New Year to all of you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Dave. Happy New Year, everyone.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
But Robin, well done. You
Thank
did
you.
a very good job. On time, under budget.
And fix my error. Was skipping item 1.6.
Done. See everyone
Right,
soon.
thank you, everyone.
Bye.